What's up, everybody?
Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast.
This is Cal again.
This is his wife, Alexis.
Hope you guys are doing well today.
Yeah.
It's been a few days since we did our last recording.
But we're back at it again with another podcast.
Yeah.
We haven't left, y'all. We're still trying to figure out a balance of how many times we're able to record a week. Some weeks look different, but bear with us because we are in this thick of parenthood and we're trying to figure all this out. So we're still
full-time mom, full-time school
full-time
students.
everything, full-time content creators. The clock doesn't stop. But we are continuing, and here we are. And I had the idea to talk about, marriage disagreements and how we have done that in the past. This was actually a recommended topic by one of our subscribers, commented and saying that they wanted to know how we handle that. So I thought that would be interesting to talk about it.
Yeah, that's good. It's not easy, I think, like when you're dealing with arguments like in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's very it's hard to like be selfless and not think about yourself when you're arguing or whatever it is, because sometimes you might be right, and just because you're right, that doesn't mean you should prove yourself, you know what I mean? Like, you are together in a relationship with your wife, with your husband, and you guys are partners in this life. And sometimes you just gotta be selfless and be like, you know what, like, just surrender.
When was our last argument?
2 nights ago.
Yeah.
You said some stuff that was, that I had an issue with, but it wasn't like, and the issue that I had was it wasn't because what you said was an issue. I think in my heart, it's like something, what would you say? Like something that is like
triggering? Yeah,
triggering. So I'm like, no. But like, if you can zoom out and look, it's like, oh, it's not really an issue. But sometimes
it's like a pressure point.
Yeah.
That got pressured.
Mm-hmm. You make things like an issue, even though they're not. So like stuff like that happens. And then like, I don't know, sometimes we like fix situations quickly. Sometimes we don't.
I would say we do more often than not quickly.
More. I feel like maybe 99% of the time we do.
Yeah.
But I think that one argument the other night was like, oh no. Like,
that was a rarity. We always usually make up pretty fast, like before we sleep and stuff, but it was different. But needless to say, I just want to kind of normalize that having arguments in marriage is normal, and it doesn't mean that you guys are broken. Like, it doesn't mean that your marriage isn't meant to be just because you guys argue or X, Y, or Z. It doesn't mean that you guys aren't meant to be together. It doesn't even mean that God didn't intend for you guys to be together. Like, marriage is going to bring out the best in you, but also the worst in you. And you're gonna have to be comfortable with being okay with getting into disagreements, And I think that people don't, especially for me, like sometimes when we get into an argument, I can be like, oh my gosh, are we meant to be together? Like, we are not seeing eye to eye. Like, I don't know how this is ever going to work out. And we're so like now focused that we don't see the future of us getting out of, the arguments that we're in. And I think the enemy tries to really trap you in your feelings and yourself. And he tries to make the arguments all about you. And he'll send every thought to make it all about you, to give you reasons why you guys shouldn't work out, why you guys aren't meant to be together, especially when you're in arguments that are really, sensitive. So just be aware of that and know that you're not the only one who goes through that, because there are plenty of married couples, including us, who go through arguments and go through different things. I wouldn't say regularly, but they do happen, as they come up. And
and on top of that, I would say there's a few different types of like arguments. Like, there's arguments that start out of nowhere, you know, you're having a great day and it just happens. And then there's arguments that happen like that boiled up for a long time, and you just burst, and like you know, you have this moment that just feels like it's going to destroy the marriage. And then there's the ones, you know, that might be like a few here and there. You see, you know, like, I saw you doing that the other day, I didn't say anything. I saw you doing it again, I didn't say anything. I saw you
like
doing
the
it
way
again,
that you put the dishes away or something.
Yeah, something
random
like that. Like, it's not a major issue where it like it boils up and then like you explode, but it's like the little things.
It's like you left your underwear on the floor. Not saying you did this, but like your spouse leaves your underwear on the floor, or their underwear on the floor. Like the first time you see it, you're like, okay, whatever, just pick it up. Second time you see it, like you get a little bit annoyed and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, and then you pick it up again. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, you see it on the floor, you might scream and say, what is wrong with you? Like it might just get up to that, you know, big of an issue because you haven't dealt with the first annoyance. And there's, on top of that, if you're getting that mad, there's probably other things that you haven't dealt with as well.
I was gonna say there's, because if you already have, let's say, the long-term issue that I said at first, where it boils up and explodes, that are serious, and then there's a little thing that, you know, throwing a socks on, you know, like you keep forgetting the socks again and again, that little thing might start the explosion of the major issue that you already was, you know, dealing with. Or that, like, the socks thing being left thrown away, that might start a situation where, you know, like you see, you know, something happened today, it wasn't long term, and then you come home and you see the socks just like, you know, sitting by itself right there. That might just annoy the heck out of you, and like, you know, you might start an argument there. Like, you know, like being able to recognize that, like, before you let things boil up, you should be able to talk with each other. We don't go to like therapy anymore. I mean, we go to therapy by ourselves, but like sometimes, like maybe my therapist was telling me how we should sit down and, like, you know, have a conversation. Like sometimes, like, I mean, we do most of the time, and we don't, it's not like we have major issues. I mean, sometimes we do, but like most of our issues, you know, get solved. But yeah, like I think you and I struggle with the ones that are like suddenly that happen, you know, or like, or the sock situation, right? Like, you know, doing the dishes in a certain way, or like putting the toilet paper in a certain way, or something like that. Like, and those things, the little things that might annoy you. And I think like you have to be able to be careful not to let the big issues go by without being talked about, so that you won't explode. And even like the small ones, like the socks issue, like you just, you know, mention it, like, and be able to give grace, because like those habits might not, you know, I might have been doing that, you know, leaving my socks like at the on top of the drawer, you know, something like that for years, and it might take me, you know, a year maybe to like get over it, or like, you know, a few months.
And it's not something that you're trying to do to like actually annoy me. You're not intentionally putting your socks on the floor.
It's just unintentional on my end. It's not, I'm not doing the sock
it's
stuff.
It's unintentional, like, on you, but it feels intentional to
for
me.
you, because like you're the one probably cleaning up, or like I'm the one who's doing the dishes or something like that, you know, like when it, you know, when those chores that you have, when they interact with each other, and like the other person is messing up what you feel like is neat and perfect, and then the other person keeps messing it up, you'd be like, yo, I told you, you know. And you know, when the kids stuff, or, you know, sometimes even like when the kids are screaming and you guys are not even dealing with anything, you guys are fine, that in itself might just annoy the heck out of your day.
It's like, who are you going to take your stress out on? And that's, I would say that's not healthy, like, in a way, because you can't always take everything out on your spouse, right? Like, that's gonna damage our relationship. If the kids are yelling and I'm constantly like taking it out on you, or vice versa, I wouldn't say that's healthy. If it happens, I would try to assess and say, okay, why is this happening? Why am I getting so triggered? Why am I taking it out on my spouse? Is there anything else that is currently affecting me? Do I have anything that's deep down, very deep down, that I need to talk about? we have to be very conscious and aware, and we do have to approach our spouse with every little thing that's annoying us, because otherwise it's going to, it could have the potential to ruin our marriage if we're not aware.
Yeah.
And if we let it get so deep to that extent. But also, most of the issues that we go through in life aren't even necessarily caused by our spouse. I think that there's a lot of external factors that do impact our marriage, which most of the time could be finances, could be family, could be, work, relationships, other things like that have a stressing impact on our marriage. Because if you think about it, we're two strangers who fell in love, and we're trying to
figure life out.
We're trying to join our lives. We're trying to have the same vision with two completely different minds. We're trying to do all of these things together, but we each have our own set of mind, right? So we have to always continually be coming together and talking about things that, keep coming up, things that we feel stressed about. Let's say I have an issue about finances, but you don't have that issue. I have to come to you and tell you that, otherwise it might impact our marriage later down the line, So I would say this practically, because this is also something that we have to be aware of, but for you guys as well to be aware of, what things are impacting me that I might later take out on my spouse.
Yeah. And, when we talk about arguments, right, it might sound like to you, we argue a lot, but this is maybe 10% of the marriage. You're not always arguing. It's just, sometimes it just happens, Mm-hmm. Yes, there's marriages that people argue all the freaking time, but for us, it's I feel like most people, they don't really argue a lot of time.
Yeah.
But they argue, once in a while, and then when they do, depending on how they're feeling, depending on what they've been experiencing in life, that might trigger them to be tough or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to be very conscious, like you said. You have to be conscious and understand yourself. How do you react? How did you react with your sisters, brothers, siblings, or family members? How were you like that? You're not just gonna come into the relationship and be a different person.
Yeah.
You might be different for a few months. The honeymoon season, everybody goes through this new I'm a new person kind of phase. But
the real you will always come out.
Yeah, the real you always comes out, and you have to be able to investigate how you were when you were with your family, siblings, were you always arguing with your siblings, stuff like that.
And whatever is unhealed in you will always come out as well.
Yeah. And you always come back to yourself, and you're going to start seeing your spouse as your brother or sister or mom or dad, that's how you're going to start arguing. But you have to be able to realize this is a different type of relationship. You're not, this is not the sibling, the brotherly, sisterly kind of relationship. This is your spouse. Mm-hmm. And there's a chance your spouse can leave you, you know what I mean? Not to say us, but most people, they're if that person is your sister or brother, you're stuck forever no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're family. But when it comes to spouse, because you met this person now, there's always something in your mind when you're arguing, I want to leave, or what, I want this to be done, or is this going to be done? Or if you make a mistake, you're thinking, well, how is my relationship done now? But you won't think like that if it was a family member.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to consider the relationship that you're in is way different than a family, mom and dad, or brother and sister, or even friends.
Yeah,
this is your spouse, and you have to deal with your spouse way differently than anybody else.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sucks because in our culture, you're not really taught how you should act in marriage and stuff like that, nobody really tells you. You just assume, you just go into it by being you. You know what I mean? And you fall in love, in that love stage, you're doing the best you can. It feels like you're not even arguing and stuff like that. And then when you get out of that honeymoon, stage, you're oh snap, I'm becoming myself again. You find yourself to be, being argumentative like you were with your sister or brother and stuff like that. So yeah, you definitely have to examine yourself and know that the person you're dealing with is not really like, you know, your brother and sister.
Yeah.
This is your spouse. You know, you wouldn't deal with your boss the same way you're dealing with your brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Your spouse, I mean, your boss has a different respect that you have for them than brother or sister. Even though, you know, even like your arguments with your brother and sister won't be the same with your dad and mom. Like, you respect your mom and dad. Like, you have to know that your spouse is in a whole different level stage than, you know, the other relationships that you have.
Yeah, that's good.
I know it's a lot to think about. Trust me, marriage is very fun. Like, marriage, you know, 90% of the time it's amazing, it's great.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like the 10%, 20%, whatever it is for you.
But in order for your marriage to be amazing, you have to go through arguments, you have to go through disagreements, but the thing is, you come out stronger on the other end. And I know that sounds cliche to say, but it's so true. If you don't, I want to say this, once you go through an argument, you have to be able to quickly let go and forgive. Because if you don't forgive, it's gonna even harbor more hardness in your heart towards that person, towards your spouse. And I do believe that this is what plays into, you know, such the high divorce rate. It's because we really have a hard time forgiving our partner, forgiving our spouse, and also like releasing them, like freeing them from that offense in our own heart, you know? So if we're not careful, we can also think that we got through with an argument, but deep down inside there's still that offense, there's still that hurt that, you know, we're just covering up for the meantime.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Because honestly, like, most of our arguments, I don't remember why we argued.
Yeah, and I think this is like a harder thing for women because we can be so emotional based and we really take hold of every word that's spoken, every little thing that's said. And if we're not careful, we can remember that and we can use that against our partner again and again and again and again. Just because that is the way, like, we're built to be more nurturing, to be more emotional, to really, and not saying that guys aren't like this and each guy's kind of different, but it's so much easier for us to hold the weight of a word, you know, more than a man. Like, if I called Cal fat, he would not believe me. If Cal called me fat, it would kind of sting a little bit, you know? Yeah. Like, words are so different in terms of female versus male and just the way of our nature. So we have to be careful as women because even for me, this was really hard. Like, I used to take your words so literally and seriously, and it used to hurt me, and I used to hold it in my mind, and I used to replay it in my mind, like, I can't believe that he said that, like, that's so rude. And even though we were done with the argument, I would find myself right back in the argument in my mind. The argument had already passed, but it was still replaying in my mind again and again and again. And I want to tell you guys that that's not forgiving. That's not letting go. That's actually harboring and only making it worse for yourself. You're literally torturing yourself by thinking about it, what your spouse might have said, you know, intentionally or unintentionally, in the heat of things or not in the heat of things. You have to really free that and let him go.
Yeah. Because what you're doing is, even if the conversation is done, if you meditate on it, like, it's just gonna mess up everything. So like, you have to make sure not to meditate in your mind about the argument you just had. Like, I'm serious. Like, I don't know what most of the time, like, what we argued about. Like, we probably argued like maybe 20-30 times in our marriage. Like,
and I can tell him exactly the day, time, what he said.
She can tell me everything, and I'm like, bruh. Like, sometimes she says, "Oh, you did this before," and I'm like, I don't remember what you're talking about. Like, I have no idea. You know, like, I don't know. For me, I just forget quickly. That could be good and bad because sometimes, like, you don't want to forget the lesson you learned. Like, you want to keep the lesson you learned, but you don't want, you want to be able to forget that, argument you had and stuff. I guess I'll ask you a question. Like, would you say words matter more, or like being physically hit or something like that?
I mean,
which one
it's the same. I wouldn't, honestly, if your mind is not protected, I would say emotional things can hurt you way more than physical things can ever, Because if your mind is not like deeply rooted even in the Word of God or just in actual truth, a word can mess up your entire life. Yeah. Like if you are emotionally abused, your soul is being affected more than your body. If you hit me, or let's say, I'm not going to say if you would hit me, because God, he would never do that, but if a man were to hit me, my body would heal, right? Quickly. The bruise would be there and it would heal over. And not to say that the pain isn't there, because the pain is there and that's still abuse. Not taking anything away from physical hitting, because that is still abuse and very much, needs correction. But if I can get your mind to such of a place where you consider yourself as nothing, as worthless, as not beautiful, as not loved, that goes with you for a lifetime. And that takes 1 billion times longer to heal. And many people go unhealed because they don't really know where it started. Yeah. And that can come from either your parents saying stuff about you, your spouse, anybody that you've been with, your friends, your teachers. If your mind is not aware, intentionally or unintentionally, if someone is saying mean things to you, that can get in your soul and mess up your entire life if you're not aware. Yeah. So I would say, yes, although the physical abuse is still much very valid and abuse, emotional abuse can also really, really, really damage your life and your heart and your soul.
You don't ever want to hit any woman, to be honest. But I think it's, for me, I asked that because my friends and I would always talk to each other. When we talk, we say would we want our parents to say negative words or words over us, or would we want them to beat us? And we always say bro, you can beat me up anytime, how much you like. Just don't ever speak. Words hurt more when with parents, relationship, because words take weight, and you might curse your child and stuff like that if you're not careful. But beating up, I'm not saying beating up like that, but getting whooped is so much better than my parents saying bad stuff, because that word is gonna carry more heavy weight in my heart and in my soul than being hit. I forget that I was hit, but I don't ever want to hear bad words, that's why I asked. But I think it's a question I should have asked, that I used to ask my friends. So I should definitely not ask you that question.
No.
Yeah, but you're right. I feel even physically, a woman would never forget if she gets hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way. Even physical, hurt. Yeah, I feel a woman would not. I feel you might even consider it even more or equal to hearing the word.
Yeah.
Because, maybe no one has put a hand on you before, and if this guy does it to you, it's game over. You're how dare you? You've dealt through a lot of arguments and words, but the moment hand or whatever, a fist is involved, that's a different story too.
And if you're in that kind of relationship, you need to leave and get help.
You gotta leave now, bro.
Leave and never look back, because I know that there's a toxic cycle that happens. Usually the offender is loving to you. It's the honeymoon phase, and they promise to never do things again, and then it gets worse, and then they hit you, they abuse you, and then it gets better again. And it's in this toxic cycle that makes it so hard to leave, because you get this glimpse of hope and you believe that they're going to change, and they've emotionally or physically beat you down to the point where you don't even know yourself. You don't even think that you're worthy. You think that this is normal. And if you're in that spot, I want to tell you that that's not normal, that you deserve so much better, that you are loved. You deserve to have real love. You deserve to have a man who will show you real love. And that man is not for you. I don't care who, what, or how they said that. I don't care. The man is not for you. And you need to go and seek refuge and find help.
Don't hold on to something that's hurting you.
Don't hold on. You're missing out on God's blessing, because the man that God has for you will never do that. And God can never bless you when you're holding on to the old thing that you're still holding on to.
Honestly, I would say even if you're in a marriage and your husband starts abusing you physically and stuff like that, bro, you gotta go. Trust me. Like you do not want to be, because he's abandoning you. Like he's abandoning the word, the oath that he gave to you and to God when he married you. So abandonment is one of the reasons why you got to leave him, because he's not dealing with you anymore. And he's not providing security to you. He's the one now who's being aggressive in your life. So do not have fear. Like, leave. God would literally stand by your side. Like he would. Like there's no way. It's not only sexual. Like when someone commits a sexual sin and then like the other person wants to leave, that's abandonment, because you abandon them sexually. So you're abandoning them physically now if you're beating up your wife, or if she's beating you up somewhere or somehow.
But typically, even when there is like abuse like that, there is some kind of sexual thing as well. Sexual abuse, like cheating or something like that, that's usually goes hand in hand with one another.
100%. Because usually the guy would be prideful, and if he has pride and he doesn't want to submit to his wife, and when I say submit, like telling her what he did, if he doesn't surrender and tell her like the mistake that he's done, he's gonna start hating her, and he's gonna start like being bitter that he has to be in this marriage, and that he's cheating or whatever it is, and now he starts being mean to her, to the point where he's trying to like push her out of his life, or something like that, and then causes a bunch of damage. But if you can just humble yourself and tell your wife, but I'm not gonna assume every man is gonna be like that, or even every woman is gonna be like that, because women can cheat the same way than like a man can cheat too. It all depends, and if that person has to surrender and like tell the other person the situation. And there's a lot of things that can happen. Like there's arguments that you should get out from, that you should just say, what, bye, I'm done. Like when it comes to sexual sin, abandonment, and all this stuff, like don't even argue, just get up and leave. Of course, pray about it, ask for wisdom, talk to pastors, and talk to real pastors, not the fake ones that tell you that God wants you to stay in this relationship.
Listen, if a pastor tells you to stay in an abusive relationship, run from that pastor and run from that man.
Yes, you need, bro, Jesus Christ, man, he is amazing. He doesn't want his daughter to be beaten up, like the way you think. Like no, like there's been a lot of people who stayed in a marriage that was very, very hurtful, and to the point where they end up dying by their spouse's hand, or they end up getting sick, or all this stuff. Like they have abandoned you, completely. So
I don't know how we got on such a
it still has to do with argument. You just have to be...
it does. You have to have wisdom, because I think the point that we're talking about arguments from is a normal, healthy marriage. There's no substance abuse. There's no, like, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, anything like that. It's just normal marriage. There's going to be conflict that comes up, in every single marriage. Like, it's not possible to not have any conflict with your spouse. Like, it's not possible. Everybody goes through at least something.
It's like saying, there's an apple fruit out there, or apple tree, and some part of it might be very ripe, which is the best part, and some parts might be not ripe yet. They're not been dealt with, they're not matured yet, so they're not fruit. They're not sweet yet, so they're still sour. So if you eat the part of the tree that the fruit that has still sour, you're gonna feel like you're gonna throw it out. What I mean? It's the same thing with marriage. Like, you have to be able to see, most of it is a good fruit that you're eating from, but there's you gotta consider there's the small ones, the small fruits that are not there yet, they're not fully mature yet, and they might hurt you, they might be sour to you, until they are dealt with, or they're fully mature. I think you just got to be able to consider all that as well.
That's good.
Hopefully that was good. I mean, we can talk more, but
yeah,
gotta go deal with that.
Maybe we'll
now.
Keep it for the next episode. Keep you guys waiting, because there is still more that we could talk about and go deeper into. Especially on the topic of emulating your parents. You know, what you see growing up is what you'll bring into the marriage unless you deal with it. You have to always deal with it. The same battles that your parents faced in their marriage will come up in your marriage, and you will have to either submit to them and do the same thing that your parents did, or you're going to have to break that pattern, and you're going to have to create a new way with your spouse. You're going to have to go over that. So it's not easy. Like, everything that you've raised and seen, you need to break free from, and you need to start a new pattern, which we talked about in our last episode. If you didn't go see, you can go watch that one on spiritual patterns that we need to be aware of. But yes, I think we will do a part 2 on this one, just because there's so much more that we can cover. But I hope this helped you guys. I hope this brought a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of insight into your guys' lives, into your marriage, to your future marriage, because marriage is beautiful, but it's something that you really have to work hard on, and that you have to go through trials in order to have the best marriage possible.
Yes, sir. You're just going into a marriage.
You're growing.
You don't stop being, you don't stop growing in marriage. Yeah. Anyways, you guys, we love y'all. Jesus loves you more, and we'll see you guys on the next podcast episode. Bye.